Yes, my people, this is Jim. I welcome you to my video where we are going to talk about the movement of an action potential across the synapse. So basically, this action potential simply means an impulse. So we are going to talk about what happens when an impulse reaches the synapse. Remember, the neurons are not in direct contact with each other, so they have the space between them, but we see that the impulse moves from one neuron to the next neuron. How does it happen? So let's start. We are going to start by drawing our knobs. Yes. This is our presynaptic knob. So here we are going to draw our postsynaptic knob. Yes. So we shall have some channels here. We shall have some channels here. Some channels, some channels, some channels, some channels. Some channels there. So we shall have some vesicles in here with our neurotransmitters. Yes. Then we shall have our sodium ion. We shall have our sodium. We shall still have our calcium ions. We shall have our calcium ions. So, what happens when an impulse reaches the presynaptic knob? This is our presynaptic knob, and this is our postsynaptic knob. Remember, at rest, the neuron inside it is negatively charged, so it has more negative ions inside and more positive ions outside the neuron. So when an action potential reaches the presynaptic knob, what happens? This forces the channels to open and allow sodium ions to enter. So it will open, sodium will enter, sodium will enter, sodium will enter, and it will start causing depolarization of the neuron inside. So when an impulse reaches here, the neurotransmitters are enclosed within vesicles. So inside here these are our vesicles in here. So they are enclosed in a vesicle. So when they are enclosed in a vesicle, it will force the calcium channels to open up and allow calcium to enter inside. So it will allow calcium to enter inside. Once calcium accesses the inside of the neuron, it binds to the vesicles that contain the neurotransmitters. So what happens? The neurotransmitters will move towards the membrane of the presynaptic node. So they will bind to the membrane of the presynaptic node and release. So they will release the neurotransmitters. Here we can have acetylcholine as our neurotransmitter. So they will bind to the membrane of the presynaptic node and release the neurotransmitters that contain an impulse into the synaptic. This is our synaptic cleft. So this space between here. So the neurotransmitters will cross the synaptic cleft and bind to the receptors of the postsynaptic nerve. So once that happens, still it will stimulate the postsynaptic nerve to form an impulse, and the process continues. So once that is done, still the sodium ions will migrate outside the neuron, and the negative, so the neuron, it will go back to its original state and it will remain negatively charged inside and more positively charged outside. So thank you for listening to me.